Hey guys, it's Mrs. Elward, and we are going to start our next unit, continuing with some more graphing. And day one is a little bit of review from last year, plus a little bit new material that we've kind of covered in our last unit. So, first, we're going to talk about parallel and perpendicular lines. So, back when we were talking about parallelograms, we said that those opposite sides are parallel, and we know that they're parallel because they have equal slopes or the same slopes. And when we were talking about right angles, those consecutive sides had to have opposite reciprocal slopes. So we're going to get into a little bit with um, actual linear functions the next couple of days. So the general equation of a line or a linear function is y equals mx plus b, where m is the slope and b is the y-intercept. So I know it's been almost a whole year since you've seen this. There's another way to write the equation of a line, and that's called point slope form. So if you know the slope and you don't know the y-intercept, but instead know a different point, you can write your equation like this. Y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1, where m is your slope still, and x1 comma y1 is the point that you know. So we do y minus the y value of that point equals our slope times, in parentheses, x minus the x value of that slope. If you wanted to write that equation in terms of y equals mx plus b, all you would have to do is distribute the slope to each of those terms and then add that y value over. So most of the time, when we're dealing with a point and the slope, I'm going to use this formula. I think it's a lot easier. I know probably in algebra you did it a little bit differently, and we'll talk about that too. And if you prefer to do that other method, absolutely go right ahead. So let's take a look at this first example. It says, what is the equation of a line that is parallel to, that means our slopes are going to be equal, y equals 2x plus 9, and goes through the point 5, 6. So I know my slope. My slope is going to be 2, and I have the point 5, 6. So that's my x1, y1. So I'm going to plug my information into this equation. So I'm going to do y minus my y1 value is 6 equals 2 times x minus our x1 value, which is 5. Now, your assignment is going to be on IXL. And on IXL, it's going to want you to leave your answer in the y equals mx plus b form. So, well, if we were still in school, this is a perfectly acceptable way to leave your answer. If you plugged it in, you wouldn't have to do anything else. But I believe IXL wants you to solve it for slope-intercept form. So let's do that. So we're going to distribute the 2 to each of these. So we have y minus 6 equals 2x minus 10. And then we add the 6 over. So y equals 2x, and then negative 10 plus 6 is negative 4. Boom, we're done. So the other way that your teachers from algebra probably showed you is this other method, not using this new formula, and it is using y equals mx plus b. So that's taking our point 5, 6 and our slope, plugging that information into this part of the equation, solving for b, and then rewriting the equation. So it would look something like this. So y is 6 equals m, the slope is 2, times x, that value is 5, plus b. So 2 times 5 is 10. Subtract the 10 over. 6 minus 10 is -4. So our y-intercept is -4. And you would write the equation y equals 2x minus 4. Gets you the same answer either way. I think this has a few less steps and it's a little bit more direct. So I like to use this way. But if you want to use this one, go right ahead. That is absolutely okay with me. So let's take a look at the next one. What is an equation of a line that is parallel to 3x plus y equals -4 and goes through the point -1, -5? So that's our point x1, y1. But our equation is not in the y equals form, so we have to make it into that y equals form. So to get y alone, we're going to have to subtract 3x to the other side. So we have y equals -3x minus 4. And since the lines are going to be parallel, our slopes are equal. So our slope is going to be that -3. So I'm going to plug it in to our new formula. And again, if you want to use the old method, go right ahead. That's totally okay. So y minus my y1 value is -5 equals m -3 times x minus my x1 value, which is -1. Now remember, minus and negative becomes a plus. Same thing here. And again, this would be totally okay if we were in class and we didn't need to solve for y. But again, IXL is probably going to make you solve for y. So let's distribute the -3. So y plus 5 equals -3x minus 3. And subtract the 5 over. So y equals -3x minus 8. And we're done. Now let's talk about perpendicular lines. So what is the equation of a line that is perpendicular to y equals 1/4 x minus 5? So remember, perpendicular lines have opposite reciprocal slopes. So we have to take that 1/4, we need to flip it, and we need to change its sign. So it was positive, so now it's going to be negative. And -4/1 is just -4. So make your life a little easier. If you want to have it -4/1, you can. That's just more writing to do. And we have our point 81. So that's our x1, y1. And let's plug it into our formula. So y minus the y value is 1 equals our slope, -4, times x minus our x1 value of 8. And then let's solve for y. So we're going to distribute the -4. So we get -4x, a negative times a negative is a positive, 32. Add the 1, and y equals -4x plus 33. All right, so that's that one. My screen froze. All right, 3 more examples. So it says, what is the equation of a line that is perpendicular to 3x plus 2y equals -4 and goes to the point -3, 6? So again, we need to solve for y first. So first we'll subtract our 3x to both sides. So we have 2y equals -3x minus 4. Still, the y is not 100% alone, so we have to divide everything by 2. So y equals, now this I know will give us a decimal, but we can't have slope as a decimal. Slope is always written as a whole number or a fraction. And we can't simplify -3/2, so we leave it as -3/2. And then 4 divided by 2 is 2. And since it's perpendicular, we need to do the opposite reciprocal of our slopes. So we're going to change the negative to a positive and then flip our fraction. So it's going to be 2/3 for our slope. Okay, so then we plug it into our formula. So y minus the y value of our 0.6 equals our slope m 2/3 times x minus our x value in the point, -3. So again, we have that minus and negative, which is going to turn to a plus. And to solve for y, we're going to distribute. So here we go. I'm going to bring down my y minus 6 equals, and then we have 2/3 x plus 2/3 times 3 is going to be 2. And then I'm going to add 6 over, and my equation is y equals 2/3 x plus 8. And there we have it. So the last two, a little bit more work. We have line segment AB has endpoints A -3/8 and B 1/0. What is the equation of a line that is the perpendicular bisector of AB? So remember, a perpendicular bisector is a line that crosses through the midpoint and is perpendicular, which makes a right angle. So the point that it's going to go through is the midpoint. So first thing we have to do is find that midpoint. So our midpoint formula, remember, is we're going to average our x's and we're going to average our y's. So -3 plus 1 divided by 2, comma 8 plus 0 divided by 2, and that will be in parentheses. So -3 plus 1 is -2, and -2 divided by 2 is -1. 8 plus 0 is 8. 8 divided by 2 is 4. So our midpoint is -1, 4. So that's our x1, y1. We also need to know our slope. So remember, that's rise over run, change in y over change in x. So we're going to take our y's and subtract them first. 8 minus 0 over, then we're going to subtract our x's. -3 minus 1. 8 minus 0 is 8. -3 minus 1 is -4. 8 divided by -4 is -2. Now we need the opposite reciprocal slope, and that is, we're going to change it to a positive, and it'll become 1/2. So that's going to be our m value for our equation. All right, so now let's finish up our equation, and let's just leave it in the new equation form and not worry about solving for y. So y minus, we have to use our midpoint formula, or midpoint value. So 4 equals our slope that we got, 1/2 times x minus -1, because that's our x value. And don't forget to plus there. And because I forgot that on IXL, these will not be covered, we're going to skip the last question. So your homework is IXL E6. So when I went to practice it myself, just to see what you're going to see, you have to leave your answers either in terms of whole numbers or fractions, no decimals. So even though, for example, maybe your equation is y equals 1/2 x plus 3, you have to type it in like that. You cannot do y equals 0.5x plus 3. I tried doing that and it told me I was wrong. So plugging in decimals is a big fat no-no. Okay. Also, you're going to have some mixed numbers, you'll see. So sort of like 5 plus 1/3. So if you're not good with that stuff, use your graphing calculator. There is an extra one on Schoology that you can download to your Chromebooks. I'm running out of time, so I have to cut this off. Talk to you soon. Bye.